Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of Digital Noir Presents. This week we had on Sam Dickinson, owner of City Brief Guide here in Adelaide. We had a chat about setting up a small business, design, and shoe shining. Enjoy. Yeah, and it frustrates me, those kind of motivational, like they're good for like a dose of kind of inspiration.
Oh, for sure.
And I'll jump in and grab a dose every now and then. But then the kind of fanboy kind of like idolation of it, where it's just like that becomes the thing as opposed to the message.
Totally. I find it personally slightly depressing going to motivational talks. It's like, do you really need to hear someone else talking about it to get yourself in a state where you can actually do something?
Yeah.
I've been to a few in my time and it's put me off everything associated to motivational talks, networking events, and anything else in that kind of realm.
Sure.
The crowd it attracts.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I suppose off that tangent though, like a relatively young guy, like what sort of did motivate you to sort of start doing your own things?
Oh gosh, I guess I've always been a bit of a hyperactive tinkerer that always liked to work on my own thing. Since I was a kid, really. It's just me. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's just from one thing to another. But I'm very lucky to have, fallen into City Brief from the idea.
Yeah.
And from there found something I really, really enjoy doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. So what was the kind of catalyst for that? Like, how'd you fall into it?
So before City Brief started, I actually, my first business after high school was the shoe shine stand in Adelaide Arcade.
Okay, cool.
And I had that for almost 4 years all up, which was a very good way of making quick connections and filling up drawers of business cards.
No doubt.
But it was during that stay in almost acting like a concierge for the building, having all the tourists come past. It's pretty easy to ask me questions. Mm-hmm. And seeing the direction the city was going in, I thought, why isn't there a beautifully designed printed guide that you can pick up for locals and visitors that shows off the best that's going on in the city at the moment?
How'd you get into the shoe shine?
Oh, okay. Well, I essentially, at the end of year 12, when I finished my exams, I wanted something to do while studying that wasn't, pulling beers at a pub or something like that.
Sure.
And I noticed that there wasn't a shoe shine service, and I've always been fascinated with bringing old world ideas and modernizing them. Cool. I guess you can kind of see that flow through into starting a print city guide rather than a blog or an app. Yep. And it was from that I essentially just researched the hell out of it with YouTube videos. And from there, I just sent an email to Adelaide Arcade and said, do you want this? And they said yes. I had it all sorted and running within a month.
Wow.
I just jumped in, thought not much to risk when you're 18.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Had you shined shoes before?
No.
Are you good at shining shoes now?
Yeah, but I steer clear of doing it now. It's kind of 4 years was long enough.
So how many hours a week were you on it?
So I was there pretty much like lunchtime.
Okay.
5 days a week.
Yeah.
But 5 days a week for 4 years of shining shoes. The main thing that I enjoyed and kept me there as long as I was were the various people from all walks of life that you get to meet.
Sure.
And I'd always ask them, if they seemed like the type of person that wanted to have a chat, I'd ask them, what do you do? And I'd love the fact I could learn about so many different industries and jobs and sectors that I otherwise would never get that personal perspective on. Mm-hmm. So I think it did a lot in terms of me understanding, the various components of the business world.
Did you have that vision going into it? Or you
no way.
Hey, I could do a shoe shine business.
Yeah, I just thought there's no way I won't be able to break even. Yeah. That was the idea that I went in with.
Just kind of cash in your pocket, basically.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And from there, it just became, to an extent, a social thing. And I genuinely enjoyed the interaction, so the networking just came naturally. It wasn't a goal.
Did you go to uni or you just?
Yeah. I was full time at uni at that point, doing marketing at UniSA.
Nice.
But nowadays I'm still ticking away at that degree because, as you know, City Brief kind of took over my life, and nowadays I study a subject a semester and slowly tick the boxes.
Good problem to have.
I guess you don't really need it anymore now that you have businesses.
It's the part of me that just hates the fact that if I don't finish it, I've got a bunch of hex to pay that doesn't actually give me anything.
I feel that pain.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah, you too. I thought you finished.
No,
You didn't finish.
no, I did finish, but I'm paying it off.
Yeah, but it's worse if you don't finish.
Yeah, sure.
Well, you don't even get the piece of paper.
No.
Yeah.
And it's all, 30 grand for a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Actually, every job I've applied for, the employers never looked at that piece of paper.
Oh no, you went there. That's good.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure you put it on your resume when you applied here.
yeah, probably not.
That's interesting. I've been doing some mentoring with third year UniSA marketing students.
Sweet.
And it's really good.
It's a good school. Like,
definitely.
I've had some tutors and lecturers that have, substantial industry experience, and they've kind of thrown in a bit of teaching on the side later in their career or for whatever reason, and they're the teachers that I really enjoy because you're getting that. There's a legitimacy
100%.
to what they're saying. Yeah.
There's a guy, I did media at UniSA for a bit. There's a sounder, he's like a movie sound technician, or Stephen Whittington, I think his name was.
Okay.
Had worked on a bunch of big Hollywood films and knew so much of the industry, and it was just this wealth of knowledge around cinema and
Awesome.
sound. It was awesome to have that kind of interaction with someone that's had that experience.
Oh wow.
But it's the feedback often though in the marketing realm anyway is that kind of it's such a fast moving kind of industry and things are changing so much on the ground that when you come out, sure, high level principles are going to apply forever.
Totally.
But the employers are saying, manage these Facebook ads for us or whatever
100%.
it might be.
I think the principles of how say advertising works and how branding works doesn't change, especially at UniSA where they take a very scientific approach to marketing,
definitely.
which is empirically backed up.
Sure.
That kind of reasoning applies to any new source of media or that you can place an ad in, and the key is I guess always placing that critical eye over any new source of media and applying the same standards to it.
And I think that's the kind of it's the hard thing for marketers and designers too. So I studied VisCom at UniSA first, and that was really much a traditional graphic design degree. So
sometimes I wish I did that, but
So around the same time, Jason did it as well from Argon, who you guys worked with. So
nice.
Wasn't with him, but that was a real sort of throwback. This was 1999.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump on computers, and they're like, there's no computers. There's
Hand drawn.
everything,
Yeah.
cutouts, paper cutouts.
Really? Jeez.
No computers until third year. Didn't touch a computer.
So designing typefaces with a pen.
Cutting out typefaces from paper, painting, color theory. A lot of theory.
So if you get arthritis on the track, that's their fault.
But now I look back on it and I thought, oh wow, it was actually such a good foundation in design. And all those design principles at the time when I was young and kind of just like, I just want to play on Photoshop.
Yeah.
But the difficult thing I think is then having the theory is great, but you also need to have the practical application.
100%.
So you come out with a strong sort of theoretical marketing degree, but then I don't know how to use whatever it might be, Hootsuite.
Yeah, and they certainly don't teach that. They always say at the start of nearly every subject, this is we're going to be talking about how say ads work, but you're not going to be, and we're not going to be touching on how you actually create an ad.
Sure.
So they very much split that, and they put that side of things in the more the creative degrees rather than the marketing business degrees, which. Sure. To an extent, I think, from my perspective and what I do outside of university, there should be at least a couple of subjects that touch on that to give you an understanding of what those other people are doing.
Yeah, real world kind of scenarios. Yeah, I guess it's all kind of like wax on, wax off kind of situation.
100%.
Yeah. And then you kind of pick up after.
Yeah, and you can, I suppose. And I think it's just that case of, while you're studying, like you're doing, you need to apply yourself and start, side hustles and do internships and,
Totally.
get your hands dirty.
Yeah, that outside experience whilst you're studying, I think is the crucial thing.
Sure.
Doing it concurrently, I think would be a lot more helpful. I found it very helpful compared to completing a degree and then throwing yourself in the deep end and starting from scratch essentially and trying to remember something that you learned 3 years ago that you can apply.
Yeah, and from an employer's point of view, if you've come out of uni with like a magazine under your belt, for example, it's like, well, okay, great. You've got a huge jump start on everybody that's just coming out looking for
Definitely.
an internship. So tell us about City Brief and how it sort of, I suppose after you had that idea and sort of started seeing people coming through the mall and thinking, great, well, there's an opportunity here.
Yeah.
How do you take that idea and then execute?
I guess the first thing that I always do when I come up with an idea is I start sketching out and coming up with concepts, and from there I start to get quotes to work out what my break even is going to be.
Sure.
And from that I always look at how realistic is that break even? Can I meet that at minimum for the first in this case issues, but in another business case months.
Sure.
And survive. And I found out I could do that with minimal ad sales from the beginning. We made a small loss in the first 2 issues, but from there on, it's always made a profit for 4 years now. Yeah.
What kind of numbers were you running in those first couple of issues?
Numbers in terms of
Like print, actually.
5,000 copies from day one, and nowadays we do 7,500. It's kind of a sweet spot because any more than that, and you have to start to charge more for the ad space because printing costs is quite substantial, and there's a certain point where are you going to be competitive at that higher price? Are you going to fill up the space? So it's always going back to the numbers and looking at, okay, where are my existing clients going to be happy to stay at?
Sure.
And they're the ones that have supported me from day one, so I want to always look after them.
In those early days, like going out and talking to advertisers, without any metrics, I've got this great idea, this is what it's going to do, this is what I hope it's going to achieve. Obviously, people take you on faith and on your salesmanship, I suppose, on those first few sign-ups.
Well, it was the first issue, from memory, there was not a single paid ad in the first issue.
Oh, cool.
It was near impossible, especially in a city like Adelaide, which has a lot of established networks and we've always advertised here and all that kind of attitude. It just couldn't be done in the first issue, and I accepted that pretty quickly. But then I changed my strategy to giving ads away for the first issue to brands that would position it where I want it to be positioned.
Sure.
And it was very clearly said, first issue, it's very hard to sell anything for our first issue, so I'd like to give you a free ad if you'll take it.
Sure.
And I got some contra stuff like bottles of wine and whatever else,
pretty good.
which I was happy with.
Yeah.
But I found that was a good move because it did set the tone to the type of advertisers going forward.
Sure.
It wasn't Chemist Warehouse trying to sell vitamins and weird stuff like that.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty important for the tone of any piece, whether it is a print or a blog or podcast, having that kind of the brands that you're affiliated with, and that I think when you're reading something like this, a Chemist Warehouse ad's going to stick out like a sore thumb, isn't it? So,
100%.
Whereas 4 Pillars Shiraz gin, which is delicious,
and it's a sexy ad as well.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
and Argons as well.
Yeah, that's a new
Very
branding
sexy.
as well.
Yeah, I like it. I saw the new cards.
I got an option. Jason sent me 4, and I was able to pick which one I wanted.
Nice.
I'm like, that pink is going to look so cool against the blue. I'm tragic when it comes to just colors that look nice next to each other. Like
So how long has Jason been on board for?
Day one.
Yeah, cool.
Before the first edition even went to print, I went to multiple design studios and I gave them a 1-page brief essentially. on what I'm after, what is City Brief, and how I want it to look, and what the brand is going to be.
Cool.
Just dot points.
Yeah.
And he was the only one out of the agencies I went to that got it in the meeting. He literally understood what I was after. And he also happened to be a competitive quote as well. So
Nice.
that's always a win when you get the person that you connect best with and gets what you're trying to do and has a competitive quote. Makes your decision easy.
Why'd you go with print as opposed to like a website or an app or, you know?
That's a really good one. It's because there are so many blogs. I guess the digital side of, you know, city guides and food blogs and all of that side has become very proliferated. There's just so many. It would be incredibly difficult to start something like City Brief and get in front of as many people as City Brief does, starting from day one as a blog or an app. Whereas City Brief I can put them in every cafe that I want them to be seen in and picked up in.
Yeah.
I can choose the kind of customer I want picking up City Brief by where they're placed.
Isn't that kind of interesting though? Because you think about, you know, like, you know, this new world of digital marketing. It's like you can target anybody you want. You can get in front of people, but you know that's becoming saturated to a point where
You have to pay for that though.
Yeah, sure, 100%. Where I mean, you have to pay for. I suppose you have to pay for the print too, but it's like, oh, you can literally just plonk it down and hope someone picks it up. It's no different, really.
And it adds that for City Brief, I always wanted that sense of trust.
Sure.
You know, it's in print, it's substantial, you can take it home, you can put it on your coffee table, you can collect them, you can give them to people that are staying or friends. I've met people that keep them in their car door.
Sure.
So if they're, you know, thinking of, I'm you know, have to organize dinner tomorrow night, and they pull that out and pick a restaurant in there. It's that sense of it's at hand and it's easy.
I think trust is like a big element, especially with, you know, the whole Facebook scandal thing.
100%.
All the fake news stuff, and it's very like ironic that Facebook has turned to print to gain back that trust. You know,
and outdoor media as well.
Yeah, all the signs they're doing, like, you know, we're not what is it called? Like we're not friends with fake accounts or whatever.
Data abuse is not our friend or whatever.
Yeah, so along those lines. So
and then along the lines, going back to, I suppose, more kind of the world in which City Brief lives, you know, you've got this proliferation of, you know, people that are just trying to, you know, milk Instagram for the sake of free food and, you know, quick Instagram celebrity or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I was just talking to a colleague that has another media business in Adelaide before I came here, and we were discussing the fact that there are so many accounts on, say, Instagram like that, and it's a shame that marketers don't have the tools to be able to realize that account is clearly buying engagement or buying followers.
I think, I mean, I suppose it's time/tools. Like, But I suppose
there's an app idea for you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's also, I think, the because I like, we play in digital 100%, but I very much love the sort of analog world still, and I think, you know, there's the time and place for it. And I think it's super important. And I think in that world, it's sort of like, rather than just going based off followers, it should be based off networks and, you know, who's actually getting engagement and who's who's out there actually doing good work, as opposed to just, you know, just basing, you know, off numbers.
Oh, completely.
But I think the problem is a lot of people that are, you know, restaurants, things that are opening, they're just worried about numbers themselves as well, as opposed to that kind of like granular, let's start with, you know, 5 people that really love us and build it from that.
Yeah, completely. I've always found that digital has been harder to grow for City Brief. But we've gone from a very, very organic approach. I've never paid for a Facebook ad or anything like that.
Cool.
Which I have friends in you know, media and that say I'm an idiot for not.
Sure.
But I guess it's the principle of I want to grow it how I've grown City Brief, and that will take time. And the website's going through a massive rebuild behind the scenes at the moment. That's going to tie it better to print and complement print rather than being print just on a screen.
One thing that I think it kind of makes sense to me, I think, from the way that it sounds like you approach business very much from this, how am I going to break even? As opposed to just jumping in the deep end and being like, let's do a 40-page glossy with, some sweet editorial, it's pretty stripped back. It's pretty simple. I mean, you obviously have to moderate the content and work out who's going to be in there.
Completely.
But I mean, outside of, asking people for the assets that you need, you're not paying a huge amount of journalists, it's not a big glossy.
The only cost is design, photography, and printing.
Sure.
And a lot of my time.
Yeah, sure. 100%.
Yeah. It's they're the three things that I started it with. I did not want to skimp on.
Sure.
Were the quality of printing and the stock we were using, the quality of the design and the quality of the photography. I just thought if we don't get those three things right, it's not going to work.
I'm old enough to have grown up in a time where, kind of designs and, very low budget kind of, I used to skate. So there was these, skate publications that were just, pretty rough, really, like a skateboard
Printed on
world
a
and Brighton
photocopier.
Road. Printed on photocopier and then disseminated. But they were, they were also in limited release. So it was like cool if you had one.
Yeah.
But the content was really interesting, right? And it was
Totally.
hard to find. There was this pre-internet. So the content, if you had that, you were sort of in a select group. So I think there's merit in that kind of a scarcity of.
Yeah, I've constantly weighed those kind of things up in terms of do I push up the print quantity and go for a higher price, but does it take away one of the things that has made City Brief desirable? Because I get emails of people all the time saying I'm missing this edition and my collection isn't complete.
Cool.
Which is awesome. Like when you come up with something in a notebook and it gets to that point, that's really, really cool.
That is cool.
And I'll always, post them out, at my cost, because it's like, I love you.
That's amazing though. So the content itself, what's the, how does an issue get put together? What's the,
So it always starts with a ginormous list of places that will fit the season. So I'm pretty big on the places fitting the time of year that they're actually going to be picked up in.
Sure.
So you won't find, rarely you'll find a primarily outdoor space in, say, the winter edition. Sure. You're more going to see the rooftop bars coming out in spring, summer, and I rarely feature them in winter. But from there, we just narrow down, and there is an element of I want some difference in the type of places. So we do three features per category. So I don't want 3 coffee shops that are very, very similar in their offering and their look. I want some contrast to offer that varying choice.
Okay. Actually, when back when I was living in Thailand before, me and two other dudes, we kind of partnered up and did something kind of similar to that.
Sweet.
But it was just like a map.
Yep.
And it was just,
lower printing costs. Good idea.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think most of the time we broke even with ad costs. And it was the craziest. It was like a map which opened up, and then it had kind of 4 squares, and you could pull on each square, and it kind of opened up, like zoom into each square. So we printed around 3,000 of those, and we had to fold each individual one.
Do you have any left? Do you still have some?
Yeah, I think there's some back at home, in Thailand.
I used to hand insert the inserts. Yeah. I did that for one issue, and I was like, no, not again.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Because that's every second edition we have the Rundle Street East insert. And
who does the printing? Finsbury?
It is TK Print now he's at Theberton.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So I've been with Ben Newbury at TK since day one as well.
Awesome.
And it's quite nice having your little network of people that, okay, Sam's just asked for this, we know what he likes. And if they say something to me, I know what they're trying to say. We're used to each other and we know how each other communicates, which makes things so easy.
That relationship and well, it started dying. I think it's coming back again with a printer is so important. I think, everything went to this kind of There's nothing wrong with Snap because there's actually a good Snap down the road that we really like. But we like the relationship. But it went to this commodity printing, whereas it is kind of an artisanal kind of endeavor.
I'm at the press every single issue.
Yeah,
sometimes
100%.
multiple times an issue for the different parts of the printing. Mainly because I'm an OCD brand control freak that wants everything printed exactly right. But also because I really love the environment of the printing press. It is cool. You've got the smells and the sound. They have a bunch of old letterpress machines they still use because they're not made brand new. And the sound of those machines working sounds like a massive old ship steam engine or something. It's so cool.
We get our cards done at a place in Sydney called the Distillery.
Cool.
But yeah, they've got I think they're Heisenbergs for old German machines.
Heidelbergs.
Yeah, incredible.
Heidelberg still makes massive offset printers as well.
It's really cool. It's a real art form.
I would love to, if I ever have the time, to spend a week there as kind of like the work.
Yeah.
The more I'm fascinating. Part things like
That,
they have them at home. So Netflix. They
no.
always wank it up.
What do you
Yeah. I guess I had a like media. I'm very much, I only ever contact I think are legitimately a really good fit. Know that this just wouldn't necessarily way that I don't think will work.
How do you do it? Do you just like rock up and then like here's City Brief, do you want to be in it?
Well, I guess it's that initial email, or also finding out if you know someone already, either a friend or a client that's become a good friend that has worked with someone before at that company, or knows someone there. That's the best way to get a meeting. But the key thing is getting a meeting and then realizing, oh, this person isn't just trying to get a commission cut. They're not there just to make another tick off their list. As soon as they realize that I'm not that kind of person, that's not my game, it's much easier.
And Adelaide's an interesting market, I think, because people really respect if you're the business owner and this is your baby, and
that's what I call it, my baby.
And you're not out there just working, you have that salesman hat on, it's at the end of the day, this is what I'm doing. I'm passionate about it. You're passionate about what you do. This is a good fit.
Totally.
Well, in terms of so I'm a marketing manager, metrics that you're telling them, 5,000 print run going, like what?
7.5 now.
7.5 without the I suppose without I'm interested to actually know what marketers are asking for, because
totally.
without the big sort of digital push behind it, which is obviously more quantifiable.
So obviously, we have Instagram, and Instagram's probably our better performing social platform.
Sure.
But I always say that, we deliver every copy in-house as well, which is not done by anyone. So I can give them a specific list of every single place, the name and location that they actually go to.
Cool.
And I know they get picked up because, I deliver them.
Yeah.
That helps. And they can roughly see, okay, these are the markets where we're getting in front of. Inner city cafes frequented by young middle-aged professionals, university students, hotel concierge desks. They know where they're going. The other thing is as well is what City Brief is about. So there's no other reason of picking up a City Brief other than trying to find an idea of somewhere to spend disposable income.
Sure.
So bluntly,
straight into the target demographic.
So essentially, where am I going to go and have a beer? Where am I going to go and get something for lunch? Or where am I going to go on the weekend, the art gallery or the movies? Essentially, it's such a pure platform because it's choices just in that realm.
Sure.
So brands that fit in that realm of choices, food and beverage, good food, good wine, good beer, good spirits, people that obviously appreciate good design and quality, fits well.
Yeah, nice.
Because there's no other reason to pick it up.
It's very bold too. Like I just saw that like downstairs amongst all the other ones.
Yep.
And like most of the covers are very busy, and this is like just solid color and bold fonts.
I was adamant from day one. I did not want a photo on the cover.
Yeah.
It also, again, if you're sort of on that, brand Nazi route, it keeps that solid brand, consistent brand. You don't have to worry about what.
We have tweaked the Pantone tiny bit. I bastardized Pantones as my printer and designers call it.
So do I.
Because
We all do.
every sock is different, and some uncoded socks will have this tinge of blue to it that you can't see unless you literally put it under an eyepiece.
Yeah, sure.
And that affects the color just that tiny bit that's enough to make it look slightly different when it's in sunlight. I actually like to take it out in the sun to see how it's going to look in direct light. That's how fussy I am. But I've had little kids that know what it is by seeing it, the color and things like that. So, and I think that's the beauty of simple design is it's got this sense of it's almost organic. It's how it should look, and if a kid knows what it is, that's a good start.
In the 4 years it's been running? 5 years? 4 years?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
You grew up in Adelaide, did you? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
always.
cool. Like, how have you seen the sort of the city change and grow? And
well, I started. I've been in the city probably every day since year 10 because I went to Eynesbury from year 10 to 12. So opposite my office now, which is weird. And
so you're there on Franklin? Or,
just opposite there at the Darling building.
Sure.
Yeah. And I guess the main thing that we used to do when we were at school was we either went to Coles to get something really cheap.
Yeah.
We went to the Chinatown or Central Markets, or, this is 15-year-old me. We went to Macca's on Hindley Street.
Sure.
If we were feeling like, we'll go for a little bit of a walk. There really were not many options around. Certainly not what we have now. And I found every year that I was at school and then shoe shine business, there was just that little bit more. And it wasn't like any other city. It was very much Adelaide's own take. And I think that's been why it's been successful and why it's continuing to be successful is because it isn't a copycat. It's very much our own expression of our city. And I hope it keeps going in that direction.
It's crazy. I grew up pretty much in the city as well, and then left in 2006, 5, or whenever the UK. I was over there for 6 years. So I came back in 2011. And that
Better
was
coffee here.
Yep, much better coffee. I wasn't that much interested in coffee then, but I am now. I think that 2011, it started kind of changing a bit. Obviously the small bar laws and all that coming through, but I think since then, you're right. Every year it just feels like it's sort of like the food and wine scene, especially, but also retail and just kind of interesting people doing interesting things and doing and succeeding as well.
Completely. I think I would love to see a little bit more freedom in terms of how the council regulates things around, businesses being able to have things on the footpath like chairs and tables, and a little bit more lax. Great cities aren't perfectly polished.
Oh, sure.
Great cities have personality.
Yeah.
If I had my way, if the landlord's cool, you should be able to put street art on any wall with their permission. That you shouldn't have to even go through council to put art on a wall that's owned by someone.
Really? Do you have to do that?
Yeah, they're pretty fussy about if you're covering a wall, you have to get planning
It's public
permission.
facing, yeah.
But if it's your wall,
planning
that you
permission
own,
still.
really,
It's just those little things that hold back
It's
the
like putting
speed.
a veranda on your home. You get planning permission for everything.
That paint could be dangerous.
yeah.
Corrupt the
To
young.
the eye.
Well, to jump from that, so you also run City Brief in Hamburg?
Yeah. So Leah was visiting Adelaide in late 2015 or early 2016, and she was actually doing her internship with SBS, doing the German news.
Cool.
And she just finished her Bachelor of Media back in Hamburg, and she picked up one of our first few editions. And when she got back to Hamburg, she actually DM'd me on Instagram and said, I love this. Could I do one here?
Yeah,
Could
cool.
you give me a license to set one up here? And it scared me shitless because I was like, oh, wow, that's soon. How am I going to work this to keep control of the brand and keep it in line?
Sure.
But I went with it, and it was a really good decision because she really gets the brand. She knows what she's doing, and she's really, really awesome at what she does.
Based off the digital stuff I've seen, it feels very much the same brand.
Yeah, even photography style
very
and
much
everything
so.
is carried through really nicely. And if you pick up one of their print editions, are identical. The only thing they have is there's a couple of differences in terms of cultural differences. We kept it in English because the majority of the population speaks English, and obviously tourists as well. And we have now and then a German word that's a bit tongue-in-cheek. It's like a colloquial, like say moin instead of say hello at the bottom, which is it's like saying hello in Hamburg. But we also have like a smoking icon, so we can list like bars that you can actually have a cigarette in, whereas we'd actually be breaking the law by doing that here.
Sure.
Promoting places as being smoking friendly.
Yeah, and just to flip back around from that, I mean, Europe, cities like Berlin and Hamburg, they have this kind of, just a bit more, it's a bit more lax than, go through Spain or you think about Chiang Mai where Nick grew up, if everybody had to apply for some sort of a permit to have a food stall somewhere, like the food scene there is just so incredible. But if you had to go through and do that, the reason why there isn't good street food here is because it's just too much of a hassle and too expensive to set up.
It costs so much money.
You have to have your public liability insurance. You have to
Imagine how many 18-year-olds out of high school would have a crack at a business if it wasn't such a hurdle.
Yeah.
If even the council had a department where you just put in a form what you want to do, and they literally sort out all your public liability and everything for you and send you an email all sorted, go for it.
I see a career in speaking, inspirational speaking for you.
I'm just an idealist.
No, but 100%. Like, I
We
mean,
need more street food.
Yeah, more street food, the better.
but I mean, I was actually going to ask you what the rigmarole you had to go through to get the shoe shine up and running.
That was easy because the arcade is privately owned, so I didn't require, and it's an internal fixture, and it's not something fixed to the ground, so I didn't need any sort of council approval. It was literally the landlord going, "Yeah, sure. How's this for a weekly fee? All good. Move in."
I think that's great though. I think for a young person that's looking for, we speak to lots of young people with digital ideas, and often our answer is maybe this doesn't need to be a digital idea right now. You don't need to invest money in software infrastructure and blah blah blah. And the marketing. I think that the whole process is it does become really expensive, and it's not always needed. You could go out and start something offline.
Well, a lot of people seem to think that setting up a business of any sort, digital or analog, requires a lot of investment. You need a brand new laptop, you need an office space, you need all of that to just start the business. And I speak to a lot of people that are wanting to set up a business, like mates and whatever else, and I always say, just go in really simple. Just spend your money on what the customer or the client or the user is going to see, and go in cheap with everything else. It doesn't matter how you're living or how you're working, as long as your product is where you want it to be from day one. To an extent,
and a lot of that is, I think, fear based, and it's the reason why it's easier to go and watch Kerr and Ray speak or whatever it might be, and say like, well, I'm almost there. I'm gonna do one more thing. I'm gonna put this together. I just need my website up, and once my website's up, I'll just do a couple more. It's like, why not just go out there and do it?
Talk to people.
Start selling something, make it happen.
Talking to people, like I didn't have the equipment for my shoe shine stand when I went to the leasing agent for the arcade and said, I want a spot to do this.
Yeah.
This is the style I'm going to do. This is the chair I'm looking at buying. I got the license to set up there before I bought all of the gear, which was good, because why buy all the gear and then find out no one will give you a lease? It's going to be viable.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. Who was the first person's shoe you shined? Do you remember?
Oh, I can't remember. It was a random older man from interstate.
Did you find it I've not seen shoe shiners here, but I spent quite a bit of time in UK and New York, where they're around the place.
Yeah.
I always find it very, not that I have shoes that I get shined, but I don't know, it's that weird kind of old timey, like feels like, well, am I sort of
subservient? Yeah. And a lot of Australians found that quite difficult. And I always put it to people that it's no different to someone cutting your hair or making food for you,
sure.
or cleaning your clothes. It's just essentially something that just hasn't been done for a while, so it feels very foreign.
And to be fair, it's actually like, when I'm wearing business attire, my shoes always need shining. Literally, they always need shining.
The annoying thing is now I see shoe shiners in other cities, and I wouldn't go to them because I look at the materials and stuff they're using and thinking that's going to screw up my shoes.
Because it's like a car wash. So I'm pretty picky about where I get my car wash. Same deal.
It's just because I know how it should be done, I just can't. Yeah. I guess it's like a really good chef eating out. It's like it'd be very hard to eat out without critiquing.
Did you have to spruik your wares? Like, were you out there, were people just coming up to you?
No, I played it, in the first few weeks, I would actually just, when people were walking through, stand up and give them, little leaflet about what it was.
To affect the Cockney accent? Or
No. I purposely didn't want that, because I really wanted to position it as being,
a modern take
old
on
charm, but sleek it up.
Nice.
And I really like that combination, because I think old charm is character and it sells, but just sleek it up and take out the unnecessary components, the cliche kitsch side of it.
Sure.
Just wouldn't have made it so accessible to so many people, because that would put the majority off, I think, because it would exacerbate that subservient side.
100%.
Do you have any strange or funny stories that revolve around? your
some that might not be
Shoeshine
appropriate
customers?
for a podcast. Some pretty interesting people along the years.
You can tell us a couple. I want to hear now.
Yeah.
Podcast is
it's adult friendly.
Some are pretty embarrassing.
I might have to hear this offline. What's next? Or what's from here?
Well, I guess I've discovered I quite like, publishing media.
Okay.
And I've actually got another publication in the works, separate to City Brief, a brand new brand that's also going to be in print, also going to be in A5. Very different brand, different market, that we're gunning for November. We'll see how it goes. And for this one, I've actually got I've got a editor that's half owner from another media in Adelaide that's going to be, editor-in-chief. I'll just be the publisher numbers branding guy.
Sure.
And yeah, hopefully that goes well. The other thing, developing the website. And I've always got my eye out for new opportunities that kind of fit within my little umbrella of things I really enjoy doing, which is that experiential, curated, sexy, sleek design side of things.
What do you see the future of kind of print and Adelaide? 'Cause there's been they're always sort of coming and going.
I've been quite proud of myself outlasting some bigger players.
Yes. I mean, then there's been a couple in the last couple of years that have come and gone.
Yeah. I think it's like any business, in the sense of you grow too quick or you're too bold and you haven't built the foundations from day one that, it is a business. Things need to be built on top of those foundations of understanding that. It's easy to fall over.
Sure.
And, I'm pretty tight with how I spend money. I only spend it on those customer facing components. Everything else, I'm still using a very old iMac.
Sure.
I haven't upgraded that yet, and I know I need to. But it's just that idea of, should I keep that money in case I want to, invest in this and grow this side of the business?
And that kind of, keeping things kind of minimal, I suppose. And it seems that's kind of like an aesthetic that you like.
Yeah.
Personally.
I live it too.
Have you had pressure to say, well, why don't you do, more opinion pieces in here? Why don't we?
Oh, especially in the early days when I first started, you'd go to meetings and people would be like, where's the editorial? Where's all the words? Where's a random story about someone? And I've always had to, remind myself, we're a guide. We're a directory of places that are good, relevant, and local and independent. We're not where you go to read in depth about, the bloke that started a bakery story. There's other people that do that really, really well. And I never wanted to be in that space. I'm not a direct competitor. I'm a supplementary. I'm the specific guide.
We'll go back to...
I mean, that's good. I mean, keeping it simple, right?
Just totally.
Target. Yeah, just have that one goal.
You can't be everything, especially with a small budget.
It's smart, but you go back to like Lonely Planet in the old days, right? You'd go, when I was in Egypt, I had this big book.
Yeah.
And, each city would have 5 or 10 restaurants and there'd maybe be 2 lines, it'd be good cheap eats.
Yeah.
The falafel's nice. And not much more than that really, but it's like, okay, well, it's in here that it's worth, maybe that's a start kicking off point.
It makes your decision easier.
100%.
And it comes back to, like you were saying earlier, the three options in each category, each issue. There is an element of it does make it easy. It takes away the stress of trying to find something on the spot.
I guess you're going back to the movies like Netflix. Just, too much choice. You don't end up doing anything. You don't go anywhere.
You spend the run time of a feature length trying to decide what you're going to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're tired by the end of it.
Pick something for dinner tonight, David, from City Guide. 5 minutes. I feel like there's this, people that everything got really oversaturated and people are wanting to go back to that, and the quality is winning over quantity again. Whereas it was it was this 30 years, I think, of just going to that sort of mass produced, everything's getting cheaper, everything's getting
Yeah,
easier.
yeah.
I was like, cheap and easy is not necessarily what I want.
Well, I think there is an instant gratification side of getting a bargain.
Yeah.
But I think, after getting that for so long and just prices getting lower and lower and the quality getting lower and lower and it just becoming just so widespread and pedestrian that people want to find something that's a little bit more unique.
And find it for themselves. So
Yeah.
on the flip side, not necessarily just cheap and abundant, but also... I don't want James Halliday telling me what wine to drink. Or I don't want whatever it might be.
Totally.
Making it like, well,
We all have a different palate.
here's some stuff that is good. Here's a starting point,
Yeah.
and you make up your own decision.
Yeah. And I think, a good city guide should be about, what's some really cool stuff that people are doing in our city at the moment. Not, oh, we like this restaurant.
Sure.
Their service is impeccable and we rate it 5 out of 5. That's not a city guide, that's a review.
Do you have to deal with much critical feedback at all? Like,
No, I've been quite lucky, really. I always ask people. I even set up an anonymous little Survey Monkey thing to just pass around all my design friends and all my media friends. That was totally anonymous for them to just slot in feedback on what we can improve.
Take it apart.
And because you've always got that fear that because you know them, they're not going to be honest, and you always are craving something you can kind of take and roll with and work on. And it went quite well. So the things that were brought up were things that are being worked on already, which was good. But yeah, I'm always keen for that feedback because you can't improve if people don't talk to you about that.
It feels like you have that kind of a bit of kind of a designer's mind, but do you struggle to ship stuff like when it comes down to deadline? Like, we're to get stuff out tomorrow. Are you running back over and
totally? I'm obsessive. It's just like writing essays when studying. I draft so many times just for myself. I like things to just flow perfectly. Like the photo layout, like the actual order of how we place the features on the page is all down to me playing in an InDesign document which photo order actually visually looks best on a page.
Yeah, nice.
That is how we choose who's at the top, who's in the middle, who's at the bottom.
Okay.
So it's not based on that's our favorite. It's based on the photos look pretty this way.
Have you ever made a mistake? Like a spelling mistake or put the image in the wrong spot?
Never an image, but a spelling mistake in the first 2 issues. There was a spelling mistake. It hasn't happened again to my knowledge.
Oh, wow. That's
pretty good.
Tell me if
that's
it
very
does.
good.
Tell me if it does. I've got into the habit of reading everything upside down as well to double check.
I think it's hard to because after you look at it a few times, it's a blur.
Well,
it's hard to
it's
pick
what you're
up
looking at though as well. If you're looking at the composition of the second photo and how that might not flow into the third.
I actually separate it, so I only look at the photo on a blank page.
Oh, nice.
It's just blank A5 pages in InDesign with the photo squares,
Yeah.
so I can just purely look at that element.
Yeah.
And then once that's done, I don't look at the photos again. It's just purely I go through the whole document just looking at one element, and then I start again.
Yeah, that's good.
Start again.
Is it just you sort of full time on it? Do you have
I'm full time. Everyone else is a freelancer.
Yeah, nice.
And I like that because I can kind of tailor people and their skill sets to specific jobs.
Yeah.
In the sense that there's always certain photographers that suit a certain setting, and I know that their photos in those settings are just their strong point. They always nail it. Or if you have a beautiful white airy space, I always use a certain photographer for those because they always nail that. So there is that benefit because you can really you can have the benefits of a big team without the
overheads.
Yeah, the massive payroll.
I think there's been some other players in the industry recently that probably jumped too quickly into that kind of model. And then this becomes tough.
You have to build it over time to really get to know who are those people that Well, that's what I found at least.
Sure.
Yeah, I really do enjoy it. The little network I've created over that time that I'll work with really closely. It is like my in-house team, which is nice.
That's awesome. Oh, sweet. Well, thanks so much for coming down. If
Thank you.
people want to find City Brief, they can find it around the city, I suppose.
Yeah, good,
City of Adelaide.
good cafes, local stores, and hotel concierge desks.
Nice.
Hamburg too.
And in Hamburg, if you're going to Hamburg.
No other cities coming soon? Or?
It all comes down to finding the right people.
Sure. Yeah. That's important, I think. Cool.
Totally.
Nice. Oh, thanks so much, mate. It's really nice
Thank
chatting
you
with
very
you.
much.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.